Okay. So today we are going to uh, continue the discussion what we had in our last video about the SPATH command. So if you remember, we discussed about extracting the fields from the JSON data using the SPATH command in Splunk. So in order to continue that, I mean the reason why I'm making this another video to explain the SPATH is in our last video, if you remember, we discussed about extracting the fields from the JSON data, right? And that JSON data was all standalone without having any prefix or postfix data in that. So today we are going to see what if the JSON data is within the logs. So suppose you have some log file and you have the JSON data in between of that log file, how we can extract the fields in that case. So I've some sample data with me. I'm just going to use this. And then, so like if you can see here, this is the JSON data, right? Starting from this curly brace till here. And we, along with this JSON data, we have some other strings here, like the timestamp and I think IP address and all, and few other keywords are there. Maybe basically the methods and all. So since this is not all standalone JSON data only, we can't extract the fields like program, the log type, all other fields from this JSON data straightforward using the SPATH command. So how we can extract the fields in this case? So the process is very straightforward. What we can do, firstly, we can extract the JSON data from this unstructured data, I would say. So we using the rex command and I'm going to explain the rex command in my next video. So for now, just keep that in mind that using rex, we are going to extract just the JSON part from this data. So let's see how we can do that. So I'm going to use a website called this regex101.com. So it's very handy, it's very helpful. You want to learn about the regex, rex, you can use this website basically. So since we need to extract just this JSON data, the data between these curly braces along with the curly braces basically. So it's starting with the curly braces. And there is another useful website. Let me show you that as well. So it's debuggax.com, cheat sheet regex PCRE. So here you will see like definition of all the uh, basically parameters what we can use with the JSON data. So I'm not going to explain about the regex rex in this video. I'll make another video for that. But yeah, for now, just keep that mind that dot notification here, right? So if you see here, dot, it includes everything basically. And to escape the special characters, we need to use the backward slash. But since we have to select everything, starting from this curly braces, we are going to use the dot. Then the star sign. We need everything from this curly braces till the last curly braces, right? And then just close it. So this is done. Now I'm just going to give it a useful group name. So maybe JSON underscore data. Okay. So now this JSON data has been extracted. Now let's see how we can do that in Splunk. So I'm not going to index this data in Splunk. Basically, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make the temporary fields in Splunk using the make results. So like make results and then eval underscore raw to within the double quotes Okay, so we already got double quotes in the data. We will have to skip those basically. So I'm just replacing those just to ignore those double quotes in the data. Okay, so I've done that. Let me repaste that here. Okay, so now this raw field has been created. And since this JSON data is mixed with the other strings, as I explained earlier, with the timestamp, IP, and then the other keywords, if you use the SPATH command with this raw field, it's not going to work out here. See, no SPATH explanation happen. So what we will have to do, firstly, we will have to separate out this JSON data from this. And for that, we will have to use this X command, what we created here. Okay, so this JSON part has been separated out from this raw field and that you can see here. So now I'm just going to keep the JSON data and removing the raw field from the result cells. Sorry, fields. Okay, so now we only have the JSON data here, right? And now we got the JSON data. So now the process remains same, what we discussed in our last video. So now if you use the SPATH command, you will see the extraction here. And sorry, so by default it works on the raw field. But since we have renamed it to the JSON data, so we will have to pass that as the input. Perfect. So now you can see this from JSON data. Okay, let me show you. So from this JSON data now, you can see the extraction of all these fields, program, log type, access, everything has been extracted. You see here host from HTTP date, file name, status, size, log type, program. Okay, so now if you want to extract the program field, right? So what you will have to do, you will provide this name here, program, and then enter. See, so this program field has been extracted, and now you can use it in your calculations further. And if you want to rename this field, you can use the output command, maybe like program name. Okay, so similarly, if you want to extract some other fields, maybe log type. So it has been extracted, and you can rename it. It has been extracted. So the main thing what you need to keep in mind is that if the JSON data is within the logs, then you can't use the SPATH command directly on that data to extract the fields from that JSON data. So as a process, what you will have to do, you will have to separate out the JSON data the from your log files. So that's what we are doing here. We are separating out the JSON data and we are giving a group name as JSON data. So once that is done, now you can use the SPATH command on that data. So just make sure that you provide the input name here. Whatever field the group name you select here, just need to provide that as a input here, and then you can play around, like you can extract whatever fields you want to extract from the JSON data. So I hope it clarifies it further, like if the JSON is within the logs, how we can use it. If it's all a lot standalone field in your logs, then obviously it's very straightforward. And we discussed about extracting the fields in our last video. But if the JSON is mixed up with the other logs, then how we can extract the fields from that JSON data. Okay, I think that's it for today's video. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you in the next video.